$1 billion in prize money. It should be enough money to go around for everyone, right? Right? The Club World Cup kicks off in about a week when Lionel Messi's Inter Miami take on Al Ahly, and I'm excited for this tournament, not just because it's hosted in the USA, not just because it's the biggest Club World Cup of all time, the biggest prize pool, 32 teams, but also Borussia Dortmund are coming to Cincinnati for 2 group stage games. You already know I've got tickets for both of those, but for anything involving FIFA, for anything involving a tournament in the USA, we already saw what happened last year in Copa America here, and we've got the World Cup coming in 2026, there's going to be some controversy. And that's exactly what's popping off now. The most recent controversy, and probably the most public, actually just happened yesterday when Seattle Sounders players who are playing in the Club World Cup here in a couple of weeks, came out into their MLS match wearing t-shirts that said Club World Cash Grab. Now, whenever you think of cash grab, whenever you think of somebody being greedy, you think of one of two things: EA Sports or FIFA. In this instance, it would be FIFA. But what if I told you this one actually isn't their fault? To an extent. Now, FIFA don't have any regulations on how the clubs distribute the prize money that are coming from these external tournaments. And MLS actually has a rule that states that the players will earn up to 50% of the prize money won from these tournaments, which I think is kind of fair, actually. 50% going to the players, 50% to the club. I say even Stevens on that regard, but it's the fact that they cap it at $1 million per club. No, that's not $1 million per player. That is $1 million per club divided among all of the players that participate, which really isn't all that much, especially when you consider that during this time, the Seattle Sounders in MLS club are also going to be competing in MLS. Now, there is a little bit of a break that all of the other teams are going to get, but these players that play for Seattle Sounders, LAFC, and Inter Miami, the 3 MLS clubs that are in this tournament, aren't going to get that break that the rest of the teams are going to get, and they're really not being reimbursed for all of their efforts, the training sessions, and the games they're going to have to play during this time of the Club World Cup. You get $1 million divided among all of these players, it actually turns into more of a 90% to 10% split. 90% goes to the club and 10% goes to the player. And that's not FIFA's fault, but actually the organization that is at fault for this is Major League Soccer, one of many issues that lies within this league, some of which I don't think we have time to get to today. But what makes this situation even worse is that 90% to 10% split is based only upon just participating in the tournament. The better that these clubs do, Inter Miami, LAFC, and Seattle, the farther they go in this tournament, the more money that the club makes. But the players have already hit that $1 million cap. They get no more money. So let's say that they make it out of the group stage and then go into the round of 8, the round of 4, maybe even make it to the finals. They get no more money. And then that 90% to 10% split turns into 96% to 4%, 98% to 2%, because the club continues to make more money, but the players get no incentive to go further into this tournament whatsoever. The Major League Soccer Players Association have even come out with a statement regarding the fair share now, supporting these 3 MLS clubs and urging MLS to change these outdated rules so that players aren't screwed over again in the future. But it doesn't look like the MLS is budging, at least before the Club World Cup. You could argue that it's because there's only a couple weeks until this begins, or you could say that it's because MLS and their franchise owners want to keep more of the money. I'd probably lean towards that latter one as well, but I've even gone out of my way to put on my Seattle Sounders t-shirt in support for the movement, because even though I don't normally get involved with these equal pay movements, a lot of times it's players asking for more revenue than they even bring in, or it's players already making millions and millions of dollars asking for more millions and millions of dollars. It's hard to get behind that. But this is different, because if you take a look at the salaries of MLS players, a lot of these guys that aren't on designated deals are barely making over $80,000. Now, that's still a good chunk of money, but I know accountants that make more than that. And so if they were to get fair share on these bonuses that they get from the in-season or external tournaments, they'd actually be making years and years of their salary in just that tournament. It would change their lives. lives significantly, and I think that they deserve it if they do go far in the tournament. Now, we kind of see this during the in-season NBA tournament, where these players, especially those that ride the bench or don't have too long of NBA careers, if they end up winning this in-season tournament, they're making more money in that one tournament than they would during their entire NBA career itself, which is kind of what makes the tournament so exciting. Back to the Dortmund kit, because I can't cheat on my FC Cincinnati, which is my MLS team, for too long, but in fairness, I bought that Seattle Sounders kit before FC Cincinnati even existed, so it's grandfathered into the kit collection at this point. But one thing I don't want to gloss over about the Club World Cup is the fact that Lionel Messi's Inter Miami are in the Club World Cup in the first place. You see, the way you get into the Club World Cup is that you have to win a Champions League, whether that be the UEFA Champions League in Europe, or you win the CONMEBOL Champions League in South America, or of course the CONCACAF Champions League, which is how the Seattle Sounders are in this tournament, because they won it back in 2022. Now, they do give a couple extra slots, 8 of which go to the highest ranked clubs in Europe, 2 of which go to the highest ranked clubs in South America, given the fact that that is where most of the best clubs are from. But there is one extra spot, which is given to the #1 team from the host country. But that's pretty ambiguous. Is the #1 team from the MLS the team that had just won the MLS Cup? Well, that's what most people would think. Or is it the highest ranked in the power rankings that come out every week for MLS? Or is it the winner of the regular season points tally called the Supporters Shield? Well, Inter Miami won the Supporters Shield, but got knocked out pretty early in the playoffs. Didn't even make a run to the MLS Cup final, but it is pretty controversial because the Supporters Shield is what Infantino and FIFA decided would be the determining factor for the best team from the host nation, which of course was Inter Miami. Now, would that have been the case had a different club won the Supporters Shield? Or did they just pick that because Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, and the ticket prices for Inter Miami all across MLS skyrocket and just dwarf any other club? You see, tickets go from $30 all the way to $350 at the cheapest when Lionel Messi is in town, and FIFA, of course, know this. So they picked the winner of the Supporters Shield last year as their determining factor for the #1 team from the host nation, which is kind of going against what most people believe would be the best team from the country, because that is mostly determined by who wins the MLS Cup, which of course Inter Miami did not do. And that brings us full circle back to the Club World cash grab, because ticket prices in the USA are extraordinary. They are extremely expensive, especially once tickets hit the resale market. These teams, especially once we start knowing who makes it to the quarterfinal, the semifinal, and the final, tickets that are already going for hundreds of dollars at their cheapest are only going to get more expensive. It prices out the working class fans. The fans that this sport was built upon and made for are priced out of these matches, and it's probably going to be no different during the World Cup in 2026. The apps like SeatGeek and Ticketmaster make it even worse, but that's probably for another video. If you guys enjoyed today's video about the Club World Cup, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to Nitro Football. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.